What are 5 albums that changed your life? Not the best albums ever made, not your favorite albums, not even necessarily albums that you listen to anymore, but 5 albums that when you look back over the course of your life, you can say, "Once I heard this album, it changed something. It introduced me to something. It impacted the rest of my musical journey." What are your 5 albums? This is a question I love asking people, and I've answered it for myself in an old, very bad video that I'll link in the description below if you're curious about my 5. But it's also a question that I thought would be really interesting to ask to musicians or music industry people or entertainers to kind of frame their own story of their personal music history. I recently got the chance to talk to Brooks, the guitarist and songwriter for Mayday Parade, who, if you haven't seen my 5 albums video, Mayday Parade's A Lesson in Romantics is one of my albums. They were probably the most important band for me growing up in terms of introducing me to music and making me fall in love with music. So it was a huge honor and super cool to talk to Brooks. He was great. So a couple disclaimers before I show you the conversation. Brooks had no idea what the concept of this video was until he joined the call and I told him. So these were just spur of the moment, just on the spot. He came up with these 5, and I think he did a great job. I think he nailed the spirit of the question. He gave 5 really interesting albums and really explained the background about why they were so important for him. So it's really fascinating. I think you're going to enjoy it. Second disclaimer, I'm not an interviewer. This is not a skill I've practiced. It's not something I think I'm good at. So if you're watching this and getting annoyed or frustrated with me as an interviewer, just know that I was even more frustrated with myself during the editing process of it. There's so many things that I wish I did differently, but it's just not a skill I've practiced. Hopefully one day I'll get better. It's just one of those things where you got to work at it until you get better. So give me a little bit of grace there. Let me learn a little bit. With all that out of the way, let's hear Brooks' 5 life-changing albums. I am super excited to be here with the guitarist for probably the band who's the most important in my own musical journey. We got Brooks from Mayday Parade joining us today. Brooks, thanks so much for being here. This is really cool.
Hey, yes, of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Brooks is going to share his 5 albums that were the most important and impactful in his life. I have a video on my channel already where I shared mine. So if you're confused what this is, it's back there. But I'll link it in the description below. And then we'll also give him, there's some exciting things happening with Mayday Parade. So going to give Brooks time to kind of talk about what they're up to, what they're doing. So if you're ready, you want to just jump right in with number 1?
I want to preface it a little bit by saying that there's probably way more albums that I could put,
Absolutely.
like I suppose being on the spot is good, right? And then just
Yeah.
coming up with 5 quickly, which is what I did. And these were all very impactful to me at different moments.
Hmm.
I'll do them chronologically.
Perfect.
What I think is
You know
chronological.
the woman wants her cowboy like he wants his rodeo.
Yeah, I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, and so I grew up on a lot of '90s rock. Before
Okay.
that, some of my first memories of music was like Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith and Bon Jovi and Def Leppard and that sort of thing.
Are those
And
artists that your parents were listening to? Like, were they
yeah,
into that kind of music? Okay.
yeah. So they would put that stuff on almost in a way of oh, he's a kid. I think he'd really gravitate towards like this one
Okay.
song, and they would just put it on, and they would play it all the time
Nice.
and then thought it was hilarious that I would sing Bad Medicine while brushing my teeth, or like, or like,
I love that.
or like, Welcome to the Jungle, or Dude Looks Like a Lady, like those are like songs that like my first memories, right? But then alongside that was like Garth Brooks,
Okay.
and they didn't listen to a lot of country at the time, but for some reason they were listening to Garth Brooks.
Okay.
I mean, and all of his catalog kind of bleeds together for me, and I love all of it. Like, I'm a big Garth Brooks fan, right?
Sure.
Even to the point that I flew to St. Louis, when he did his like world tour
Oh,
again,
nice.
which I've never done anything like that. That was kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, Rope in the Wind was an
Okay.
amazing record, right? But he had so many number ones,
Hmm.
and it was like cool because Garth Brooks like towed this line of like country and rock, And you know, I mean, if you listen to country, you know what I mean. I suppose if you don't listen to country, then it just feels like more country
Yeah.
to you,
It's
you
just
know.
I've heard
But
a lot of all country sounds the same, which is true of any genre if you're not in it. So
right, yeah, especially if you're not like in tune to nuance, you know, of what's happening, and it's, but it's so to certain people, it's so relatable, you know.
mhm.
Um, and for me, it was, but I didn't know that I was going to end up growing up in 90s country as much as I did. My parents listened to a lot of other country later as I was getting older. Maybe they didn't. I just didn't
Really?
know this before. Yeah. So that was like a huge influence. And I'm gonna get this all wrong because I'm just going off of memory, you know. But like I
That's
think
totally fine.
yeah, I think like you know, like Rodeo was on that song. I mean, sorry, that song was on that album, you know.
Yeah.
But when the lightning strikes, there was so many good ones. The dance, I think the dance was on that album as well. And if it wasn't, who cares? Like they like so many
Right.
albums back were like felt just like that album and were amazing. And then I didn't really care to play music like that for a long time. And
Okay.
then when I got more into writing music, I started to notice that the things that I would write had those influences in it. Not just him, but all of like 90s country was like had crept in there.
Could you be like slightly more specific? Because I'm interested in like in what ways do you see that influence? Like what
Well,
about 90s country do you hear in your own music?
for the, like I like oh, Hold On to Me is a song that I wrote, right? And like
Hmm.
it's like
Love that song.
right, and that's very country, I
That
feel
is,
like.
I hear it now.
Yeah. No, I got my problems and it starts with me. You know, like that.
Yeah, that
It's
I
all
never would have picked that up until you said it.
I
I'm like,
can
yeah.
see. Yeah. That hold on to me, hold on to
Yeah.
me. Right? It's very, to me, it's very country. So like, and then like to the point that a lot of the guys in the band were like, can we do that? And I'm like, why not? It feels so good. Like, and it, you know, it kind of toes the line. And then other things that I would write had that influence. And even to this week, like I was like writing a song that I'm finishing right now that is straight up like a country song, and I just followed it. Like I'm supposed to be writing Mayday stuff, which I'm doing right now,
Yeah.
you know. Currently but then like if a country song starts coming out of me, I will finish it. Yeah.
Do you know, like, do you remember like what age roughly this was that your parents started instilling Garth Brooks into you?
I mean, it had to have been before 5, you
Wow.
know,
All right.
I think, you know, it
That's
had to be
awesome.
right along. It was like some of my earliest memories
I-
of music.
That's so cool because I grew up in a very like non-musical household. My parents did not care about music, so it wasn't until I was like seventh grade that like I
Yeah.
heard "Good Charlotte's Young and the Hopeless" and I was hooked on music after that. So it's really cool that it's like from way back you're plugged in and listening to stuff.
Yeah. My family was not super musical or anything. They couldn't
Mhm.
play anything. You know, later my dad was like, "Hey, does somebody want to learn to play guitar?" You know, my brother actually raised his hand, and then he decided not to continue the lessons, so I picked them up, and then
Nice.
I never stopped. With those early childhood memories, just like Guns N' Roses, you know, Appetite for Destruction had been out for a bit, you know. I was born in 85. I'm
Okay.
sure that album wasn't around till like 87, 88 or something. That was like some of my first memories of music. And one of the Appetite for Destruction is another one of those albums on my list just because from front to back, it's so good and raw and aggressive and all like just a bunch of cool, you know. It was all everything about it was just cool, you know. And these days, you know, like listen, you know, you get tired of hearing the songs, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know, I'm not trying to take away from what they are, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
anything, like I don't usually put on like any rock classics unless there's something about it that I want to reference. You get tired of stuff. I just listen to a lot of new music now.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
that yeah, especially like pop and stuff. But I listen to everything, and but yeah, that album was so cool. You would have thought that I really would have picked up like a Gibson Les Paul, but I didn't. You know, I ended up just playing Fenders, and
Nice.
it was cool. Like, Izzy, you know, the rhythm guitarist, he played Fenders. You know, he
Yeah.
played a Telecaster. Yeah, and you would have thought that I would have like learned to like rip solos and stuff, and I really didn't put a lot of time into that sort of thing because I was just more about like the songs
Okay.
and the writing, and then and I loved just the sound of it. Like very early on I got into like got like we our band got like a digital 4-track recorder, and like trying to manipulate sound and stuff. That's what I was interested
Okay.
in. I never thought I was going to be in a band that played like classic rock solos. Good thing we have like Alex, who loved that,
Yeah.
and like was a master at it, and like he absorbed himself in learning how to rip a solo, like Slash. And but
Every band needs someone like that for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. Like I'm used to like playing like the writing something that's like super catchy, quick, to the point,
Hmm.
in and out between the vocal and
Do you see a lot of the like kind of what you were saying with Garth Brooks? Do you see when you're writing music, do you see like you'll be writing something and then be like, oh, that's Guns N' Roses, and I just didn't really pick up on it.
I don't think it no, it doesn't. And I always
Okay.
wondered why that didn't happen. And I finally kind of realized later it was like, oh well, your current influences don't do that, and that doesn't
Mm,
sound like something that you would do. Like same reason I'm not going to pick up a guitar and start playing like a Beatles sounding song. Like I like the
sure.
Beatles, but I'm not going to write something that like feels like it could have been on a Beatles record. It wouldn't really work
That makes
in
sense.
not it's not like if the Beatles were a band today and were writing those songs, I'd like to think that like people would like it, but I don't know if they would care the same way as they did then. Like fans, that's
Mhm.
such a hard thing and such a bold thing to say,
No,
right? Like
I'm with you on that for sure.
they probably would have done what they had created, right?
Hmm.
But in a different way, right?
Yeah.
They probably would have approached it completely different. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. And getting back to Guns N' Roses, that very much feels like 80s. Like that feels like
Yeah,
80s, early 90s hard rock. So
yeah.
yeah, it
It's
sounds
hard.
a little strange now.
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It doesn't quite work the same way, and nor should it. Music and everything evolves and changes, and there's things that are influenced by it, and you get like these tastes of things. Like I know we're getting a little off topic here,
It's
right?
fine.
But like I'm listening to country music today, right?
Okay.
I'm listening to like the top whatever the top today's country streams are, right,
Hmm.
on Apple Music. There's these touches of this influence from all different genres being infused into country music, and it's interesting because you go, oh wow, that kind of sounds like, I don't know, like what was a good example? I mean, like there was even like some Van Halen influence in one of the tracks I was listening today,
Interesting.
right? And I go, but it doesn't sound like Van Halen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that. Nor are they trying to be that. They're just touch. Just
Yeah.
kind of dabbling a little bit. If I'm moving down the line a
Yeah.
little bit, right? Like 90s rock was big for me, and you would think I would have put. Well, I do have one on here, but like I don't really put Metallica in that like 90s rock basket quite the
Hmm.
same, although it very much was. It just kind of like they were like so much their own thing,
For
it
sure.
felt like. So the Black Album, is cliche as it
That's
as it
such a good
sounds.
album though. So
But
no
it's
shame in
so
that.
yeah, it's so amazing. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to that album and then once again with another album, don't know that it directly influenced what I did
Okay.
or what was right, and I can speak for others like Derek. Derek, he loves that album too. Like
Hmm.
me and him both grew up on a lot of Metallica. But what's interesting is, yeah, where does that come into play, right? Like in what we do? Probably,
Yeah.
probably almost nothing. Maybe one of them will destroy the other.
Yeah.
On our Black
Black
Lions
Lines.
album,
Yeah.
maybe, maybe something like that. But you're just listening to like great, and like
Hmm.
sometimes great is not like listening. You're not going to take the influence from a standpoint of like let's start playing some chuggy metal riff.
Right.
Maybe you're just listening to song structure.
Hmm.
Like there's an influence in a song structure or the way, like in a cadence, or like the way that it goes into like a mode, that feels different, and you go like, what are they doing? What are they
Yeah.
doing that's very interesting there? And
Right.
then maybe that plays some influence in a different poppier key that you write.
Mhm. You're taking what about the album like connected with you and you're trying to apply that to your sound and what you do. I get that for sure.
Maybe it was in there somewhere. You'd
Sure.
like as much as we had listened to that album and others, you would think that it had some
Mhm.
influence.
It probably does somewhere.
Yeah, but then Bob Rock produced that record, right? And he
Mhm.
also produced like Load and Reload, which came out right after. What's interesting is like the Black Album, they all three of those albums sound very similar, but the Black Album somehow just feels, it's like maybe they spent more time on it. I'd have to look. I know they spent like they spent like a year on that album.
Mhm.
Um,
It shows. It's incredible.
yeah, and just sonically, that album still like it sounds better than than Reload
Mhm.
somehow. Probably just maybe more time, and maybe it was just the time and place too.
To put this into context of your life, do you remember like what era of life this was for you when you first started hearing the Black Album? Like, where
I
was this,
mean,
middle school?
yeah, yeah, middle school. Like this is
Yeah.
like when I was picking up guitar,
Okay.
which I'm not going back and looking at the year it came out, but
Yeah, just roughly is
what do you
totally
think
fine.
it was 90, like, but like it was it'd probably been out for a bit, Yeah.
Looks like 1991 was when that
Yeah,
came.
I almost guessed 91. And I was trying to think like
You were close.
yeah, but
You
I
would
didn't
add it.
really. Yeah, I didn't really start playing. I don't know. I was 13, so what was the year? It would have been like
Okay.
98. I started playing guitar. All those years, it was listening to a lot of 90s rock. So then, and I love like Soundgarden is probably one of my favorite artists.
Okay.
Maybe I should have put their Super Unknown record on the list, which I
We'll call it an
didn't.
honorable mention.
Yeah, I feel, and the reason I feel like it didn't come straight to me was because I think I liked that album even more so later,
Mm.
even though I owned it and listened to all their stuff, Soul Asylum and like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Deftones and there's so many, like Oasis. For some reason, Silverchair, I put Silverchair's Neon Ballroom. I know that, Frog Stomp, right, was their debut,
Mhm.
right, and that was amazing. And I think they were only like 17 or something when they put
Wild.
that out, right? Maybe it was Frog Stomp I picked up at Freak Show. I picked up as well when I first started taking music lessons, and I was doing them at a music shop in Tallahassee, and the guy James Stanton was my guitar teacher. They used to call him Mississippi James, and he grew up on the Mississippi Delta. And
Nice.
he learned to play, by ear, and with, like off a record player, and just from people in his small community. And he's a
That's
great
so cool.
player, right? But he and he passed away recently.
Oh.
But he's but very cool guy, and he taught me a lot. But anyway, there was a CD store connected, or music store connected to the instrument shop. You go in there and you could put the CDs in and listen to them.
Yeah.
And they had like a used section, and that was, you listen to whatever they were selling, right?
Yeah. I spent
And,
whole afternoons doing that. Like
Yeah, so
Walmart or wherever,
Right,
just
yeah.
listening to every CD.
So before each lesson, I would go in there and like pick out a couple CDs, listen to them, and and I'd buy a couple every week, and
Nice.
and Silverchair was one of those that crept in there that I don't even know that was introduced to me in any other way besides just a CD that I saw, Those albums probably had already come out by then, right? And then maybe even Neon Ballroom was out by then too, but that was more current at the time because I went to the Atlanta Motor Speedway and saw them play a rock fest there.
Nice.
And they were on that album, and they were promoting like Anthem to the Year 2000. And what's funny is when they played that festival, they didn't even play that song. They're playing Anthem to the Year 2000 on the big screen over the PA while the changeover is happening. And then they get on stage and they don't even play that song. I was so
They're like,
pissed
"Ah,
about
you've
it.
already heard
I love
it."
that song.
You heard it in between sets. We don't have to play
Yeah.
it again.
That album's so cool. It's like it's very different from their other music, because there's tons of like like strings and arrangement. I think singer guy, I think he arranges all that. I think
Really?
I think he's a bit of a savant with that stuff.
Nice.
So I hear. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, very, very impressive record to
It's
go
an
listen.
album that I'm not super familiar with, so I'm excited to go
Oh, you
listen to
have
that one.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so cool how they intermingle the rock band with it. Not like a S&M Metallica thing,
Hmm.
like just you're like in the middle of a rock song and then you're just in just to see a symphony for a while and you're like, wait, is there a guitar? No, there's no more guitar. Okay. And then this song just keeps going. You're like, okay, we're not gonna have a guitar on this.
Yeah.
The most current, and this, like I said, there's so many, right, that it's tough to pick, but I just went off the top of my head with it. But Post Malone's Beer Bongs and Bentleys
Nice.
is, is an amazing record, and I continue to enjoy everything he puts out, and I guess you could probably guess that how he segued into country, and then
Yeah.
I go and like that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Did it so
I
well.
don't mind that at all. Like I'm just like I like country too. So, but that record was just different, man. Like, I mean, he kind of changed music,
For
current
sure.
what for that what's going on in that world,
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm sure as you were like already in a touring established band when that album came out and just being like, oh man, like I didn't know we could do this. Like that's got to be a cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's not like that's the furthest thing from us,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't sneak that in there, right? But like, but there's, I mean, just the melodies and just the simplification of everything with that amazing voice is so good, And I guess once again, I'm attracted to that bad boy thing, right? So like, you
Right.
got like this, like the it's like the new Guns N' Roses kind of thing going on, right? Where it's just everything's cool and everything is it's edgy and but nobody was able to put melody to that kind of thing like he did. And I love listening to top 40 in general,
Yeah.
But
I think especially in your genre that can get a little bit like looked down on, like, why are you listening to pop music? But it's so good. It's,
no, there's so much good out there. It's easy to kind of be like, that feels cheesy or bubblegum or that's like corny. And I think that can be very true. Like
Definitely.
there's a lot that I don't like in it, but I don't get that feeling right now. Every week there's like a new great song that comes out. There's this simplified, catchy, and like the vibes are cool right now. Like there's not a lot of cheese. It doesn't feel cheesy to me. Well, I don't feel like
Yeah, I
anything's
agree.
super bubblegum right now. But then on top of that, when you listen to like lyric writing and what people are doing, especially with like the co-writes on these songs, the people who are teaming together to create what is going to be like a very hopefully very successful song, and a lot of those are, right?
Hmm.
You can tell there's just like this a lot of work that goes into the creative process.
Getting back to Post Malone too, I think that's what hip hop is great at. Like the collabs in hip hop is such a
Yeah,
great way of doing what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's a wonderful area of music that I think people should explore.
100% agree.
Like as artists and just when you're listening, just listen to like how witty some of that stuff is. Not just him, but all of that.
I'm smiling in the afternoon. I've got a lot to do, and it's a beautiful day.
I think with our last little bit of time here, I'm going to talk about Mayday Parade and what you guys are doing. Because you got an album coming out, going out on tour.
Yeah.
The album comes out. I wrote it down, but I lost end of April.
Yeah, I think it's April 18th.
Cool.
I should check that, but because I keep
Yes,
I should
April
write
18th.
it-
Found it in my notes.
I should have it written down to be sure because I'm always second guessing myself. But we're stoked for it. It's a part of like a 3-part sort of series that we're doing. which is just going to include more music than we're used to putting out at one time. I mean,
Interesting.
well, I
Okay.
mean, it is spread out, but like it's kind of, we'll have separate releases that are kind of
Sure.
wrapping a trilogy idea. We've been in the studio, obviously creating what's dropping, but we were in there recently creating part two, and we're still in the
Nice.
middle of writing right now for part three, and just lots of good
That's
songs.
it's interesting. How is that going to work being out on tour? That seems like it's going to be difficult to write and tour at the same time.
Yeah, that's the story of our lives.
Sure.
Like I think it's always been that way. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, like we probably have set more time aside in the past to do it, to write music before going into the studio, which had
Hmm.
been a worry of mine for a while. I'm not just given the amount of good songs that we've got that have come in on the table over the last two sessions, knowing that some of the stuff that we didn't even track before the last two sessions are going to get carried over to the next. Plus we're going to have new ones on the table. I'm just,
Perfect.
I'm just excited to create and keep the ball
Yeah,
rolling.
that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see you guys. It's been a while, but I'll be there in Nashville on the 22nd. So I'm excited to
Heck
see you
yeah.
guys play again. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Heck yeah.
If anyone watches this, come to the Nashville one. Find me. I'll be out in the audience somewhere. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's very cool. We'll see you over there, and I do appreciate this.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out, sharing your albums. Sorry
Heck,
about springing the question on you last minute.
no, it's all good. I can make quick work of it. Don't worry.
So there are Brooks' five life-changing albums. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I want to thank Brooks again for being willing to come on to the channel and talk about this. It was super awesome for me to get to talk to a member of Mayday Parade and hear a little bit more about his story. I do want to say that I think I dropped the ball at the end of the conversation, and I wanted to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes as to why that happened. Because I'm super professional and really know what I'm doing, I didn't know that Zoom capped your meeting time unless you were upgraded to the pro version, which I was not. So it started giving me all of these warnings about like this meeting's going to end soon, and I wanted to make sure Brooks had all of the time that he wanted to talk about his albums and talk about what Mayday Parade was doing. So while he was talking and while I was paying attention to what he was saying, I was also in the background trying to upgrade Zoom to the pro version. It wasn't accepting my payment on my PC, so I had to go to my phone. It was just a whole mess that I'm not happy about. But I had so much more I wanted to say about their album, about their upcoming tour, so many more questions I wanted to ask. But with all of that happening, I was just so scattered that I couldn't collect my thoughts enough to engage with that more. And I really should have. So I feel like I dropped the ball there, and I'm sorry about that. But you should definitely go listen to the singles that Mayday Parade have already put out, pre-save their upcoming, the first part of their three-part album. One of the singles that they put out, a song called By the Way, is like my favorite Mayday single they've put out in a really long time. So definitely go check that out. And make sure you look at the tour dates. I'll leave a link to that in the description below as well. They put on a fantastic show, so see if they're playing near you and go check them out. If you're a musician, if you're a member of a band, if you're in the industry and work with musicians and you think that this video concept sounds really interesting and you think you know someone who might be interested in doing it, feel free to let me know. I have my email in my YouTube channel description thing, so you can reach out to me there or you can leave a comment on this video. I think it'd be really cool to do more of these and hopefully do them better. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, give the video a like, comment, and let me know what you thought about it. You can share your five albums in a comment as well. I always love reading those. And subscribe if you want to see more of this.